Hi everyone, Carter Krishnaiyer here for Beyond the 90, and I wanted to walk y'all through one of my most prized football possessions, which is my Football 87 completed Panini sticker album. Now, I got this because my parents took me to the United Kingdom during the summer of 1987, and this sticker album was still on sale. The season, this was for the recently completed season, and I've collected Panini and Top stickers all the way through about a few seasons ago, Bundesliga and Premier League, as well as Copa Americas, World Cups, Euros. But this is the original album. This is the one that got me hooked, and this was before the Premier League, so you have all of the Football League covered here. So this is the cover, Football 87. And I didn't take very good care of this through the years, I'll admit. Manager of the Year, Kenny Dalglish, whose son I got to work with. Here he is, King Kenny. PFA Player of the Year, Gary Lineker. PFA Young Player of the Year, Tony Cottee, who one of my cousins really liked at the time. He was at Leeds United. Richard Goff, who later played in Major League Soccer, was the SPFA Player of the Year, Scottish football. Oh, this includes Scotland. And Craig Lewin was the Scottish player, Young Player of the Year. Went on to be a pretty poor manager. Now, that was for the previous season. Now, let's look at Arsenal. This Arsenal side. Y'all probably recognize this guy, Stuart Robson. Commentator extraordinaire. David Rocastle, who tragically passed away at a young age. Really great player. Died in a car accident. Niall Quinn, the future Manchester City and Sunderland great. David O'Leary. And of course, George Graham was the manager. Tony Adams, the young Tony Adams. So this is from the 86-87 season. Villa is next. And you see Graham Turner was the manager of Villa. Let's see what Martin Keown as a Villa player, if you can see that really up close. Who else is significant here? Steve Hunt, who, of course, played in the North American Soccer League for the New York Cosmos. Lenny Lawrence, who was again managing just very recently in the Football League, managing Charlton Athletic. Talk about a survivor. He's close to 80 now. Alan Kirbishley, future Charlton manager, playing for Charlton here. Rob Lee at Charlton. Wow. Rob Lee, young Rob Lee at Charlton. Now, that one I did not expect to see. Future really great player for King Kev's squads over at Newcastle. Chelsea, they were in the first division at the time. They were a yo-yo club throughout the 80s. John Hollins was their manager. David Speedy. No one really significant other than that. Coventry City, who were a fixture in the top flight in those days. Dave Bennett. Dave Bennett, who was the first really significant black player for Manchester City several years earlier. Cyril Regis, great player. One of the first great black players again in English football. Everton. By the way, at this point, I should mention, since we were just talking about black players at country, Everton had no black players at this point. Everton is white, was what some of their supporters threw out there. Neville Southall. This was Howard Kendall's team. They were the champions that year, right? I think Everton won the championship. Did Everton win the title that year? I think Everton won the title that year. Dave Watson. Peter Reid, one of my all-time favorites. Future Manchester City player, manager. Graham Sharp. Paul Bracewell. Well, what a team. Leicester. Leicester City. Who was significant on this Leicester team? Mark Bright was on Leicester at the time. Gary Lineker probably also. No, maybe he was gone by then. Alan Smith. Alan Smith was on Leicester. Gary McAllister. Oh, hey, Leicester had some significant players. Liverpool, the team of the decade, obviously the team of that era. I mean, you could just look at the list of players: Dalglish, Grobbelaar, Jim Beglin, great commentator Stevie Nicol. We're very familiar with him here in the States. Alan Hansen, who became a great, big time commentator. Venison, Mark Lawrence, another commentator. Ronnie Whelan. Steve McMahon, another man who became a commentator. Ian Rush, one of the greatest Welsh players of all time. Paul Walsh, Jan Molby. Wow. Craig Johnson. What a team. This was their era of domination, but I think, I might be wrong. I think Everton actually won the title that year. I should have checked that before we started this video, but certainly they were good. Luton Town, Ricky Hill, who I later got to work with, Tampa Bay Rowdies manager, one of the best, one of my favorite people to work with in NASL 2.0, and I've maintained a relationship with him since then. Mick Harford, who has been in and around Luton Town for much of his life. David Pleat must have been their manager, right? No, John Moore was their manager. Okay. Manchester City, Steve Kinsey, who soon after this came here to South Florida to play for the Fort Lauderdale Strikers of the APSL. Yes, those Strikers had a great play. And Kinsey scored a goal a game, basically, in the U.S. once he came. Paul Simpson, future manager, Preston North End, among other places. Clyde Wilson, sorry. Could I do that? One of my favorite players. I know, became a very controversial manager. I guess I have to see the movie Saipan. It came out in Ireland. Yeah. You guys can see who that is. Oh, you may not be able to see. It's Mick McCarthy. Man United must be next. Man United, managed by Ron Atkinson. He would be replaced by Sir Alex Ferguson. During this season. This was Sir Alex Ferguson's first season, actually. Norman Whiteside. I mean, there was still... This was an era where United were not competing for league titles, but they were still winning trophies, and they still had really significant players. Paul McGrath. I mentioned Norman Whiteside, Frank Stapleton. Right, these are big names. Gordon Strachan. Wow, I almost missed that. Norwich. Ian Culverhouse. I mean, they were classic players up and down. Steve Bruce. Speaking of Manchester United. Forest. Brian Clough. So who else was on this Force team? Psycho, Stuart Pearce, Des Walker, Nigel Clough, young Cloughie, Gary Birtles, Colin Walsh. Nigel Clough would have been about 20 at the time, right? Yep, I'm right, age 20. Oxford United were in the top division. Ray Houghton. Let's see, who else was on this team? Really no one of Alan Judge. Okay, he was a good goalkeeper. QPR had an interesting team then. David Seaman was their keeper. Terry Fenwick. Alan Brazil, whose show I've been on TalkSport, I'm happy to say. Michael Robinson, who went on to be one of the great commentators about Spanish football. Actually, we talked about all the commentators on from Liverpool who became great commentators about Spanish, who became commentators about English and Scottish football. Michael Robinson became a great commentator about Spanish football. So he went to Spain. Liverpool at the double. That was the previous season. Again, they won the FA Cup. They won the league as well. You see Dalglish, you see Hansen, you see Grobbelaar. As I said, I think this season Everton actually won the title. Soccer crazy. Remember they used to not hate calling it soccer. Mexico Magic. This is from the World Cup that previous summer, '86. Sheffield Wednesday. Howard Wilkinson was their manager. The great Howard Wilkinson, the most recent English manager to win the top flight in England when he won it with Leeds. 91-92 season. Gary Megson, future a favorite of mine at Manchester City. Nigel Worthington. Brian Marwood, the future Manchester City director of football, who was responsible for signing the team that Roberto Mancini took to City's first title in 68 to 2012. How many years would that be? In 44 years. Southampton, Chris Nichol. Peter Shilton was their goalkeeper. I believe their chairman at the time was Rupert Lowe, who is now a very controversial politician that was kicked out of the Reform Party by Nigel Farage. Andy Townsend was on Southampton. Kevin Bond. We know this guy pretty well in North America. At least those of us who were around NASL 2.0. Colin Clark. Y'all knew him in MLS also. Spurs. Oh, David Pleat was already at Spurs. Okay, he had left Luton by then. Here's David Pleat. Here's Richard Goff. Gary Stevens. Glenn Hoddle. This team won nothing. Yet we're going through all the great players. Tony Galvin. Gary Mabut. Gary Malbert, Chris Waddle. They would in the near future have Gary Lineker. Oh, Clive Allen. In the near future, they would have Gary Lineker and Paul Gascoigne. Teddy Sheringham. Still never win anything. I guess they won some FA Cups, but that was it. Watford. This is great. These are the great Graham Taylor teams that really kind of grew the sport. Luther Blissett, who is a kind of a joke in Italy, seen as a joke in Italy, but was a fair player in England. John Barnes, one of the greatest. Tony Cotton, Steve Terry. Yeah, these were fun Watford teams. Guess who's next? I know who's next. It must be. Oh no, it's not. It's West Ham. Sorry, I'm out of alphabetical order. It'll be Wimbledon. Will be next. John Lyle, who was the manager forever of West Ham United. Let's see who else from this West Ham team is worth commenting on. Tony Cottee, who we mentioned. Oh yeah, he was at West Ham then. He was not at Leeds. I had a cousin who lived in the UK who had a crush on him. Yeah. Oh, here we are. Wimbledon. Dave Bassett was the manager. Laurie Sanchez. This is the beginning of the crazy again. Nigel Winterburn. Great John Fasciano, who I did a podcast on many years ago. Forgotten athlete. Obviously, he passed away also. Kind of a sad story. But Wimbledon was fun. Then and now. So we got like these old kits, classic kits of all these first division teams. So now we get to see the second division. Barnsley, Birmingham City, Blackburn, Bradford, Brighton, Crystal Palace, Derby, Grimsby Town. Crystal Palace was the club that much of my family supported. Huddersfield, Hull. Ipswich, Leeds. Leeds is in the second division here. They will win the Division 1 title pretty soon under Howard Wilkinson. 91-92 they would. This is Millwall, Oldham. Oldham under Joe Royal would make it to the top flight in a few years. Plymouth Argyle. Portsmouth. This is getting increasingly difficult. Reading, Sheffield United, also because this album is falling apart. Like I said, I am not taking great care of it. Shrewsbury Town, Stoke City. This album has literally moved with me like 10 times. So it's not been well handled. Sunderland, West Bromwich Albion. Those were your teams in the second division then. So then we go to Brits Abroad. This is a cool section. Because remember, this is a period of time when, because of Heysel, English clubs were banned from Europe. So you had a lot of players who left the English leagues to go abroad. Terry Venables was the manager at Barcelona. Malcolm Allison was the manager at Porto. A controversial figure who I've considered writing a book about, actually, because he's so he's so important in the history of Manchester City. Here's Gary Lineker playing at Barcelona. That's right, he wasn't at Leicester anymore. Steve Archibald. Sparky, also at Barcelona. Paul Rideout, future MLS player for Kansas City, also scored the winning goal for Everton in the 95 FA Cup final at Wembley against Manchester United. He was playing for Bari. Gordon Cowens, who I believe was also with Bari, if I remember correctly. Does it say? Yeah, he was with Bari as well. Ray Wilkins, one of my favorites, Mr. Chelsea, who also was really a really great player for Manchester United and a good manager for Queen's Park Rangers, who passed away a few years ago. Carlo Ancelotti never figures out English football without Wilkins on his staff. I maintain that. Like I say, Jose Mourinho never really figures out English football without Steve Clarke on his staff. Steve Clarke, the current manager of Scotland. Mark Hotley was at AC Milan. Tony Woodcock was at Cologne, if I remember correctly. Wish the writing was a little, yeah. Woodcock was at Cologne. And Trevor Francis was at Sampdoria. David Platt was there as well, I think, at the time. Or soon thereafter. Okay, Aberdeen. We're going to Scotland now. Managers, Alex Ferguson. The other sticker for Aberdeen is Jim Leighton. How ironic. Those of you who know Manchester United history know about the falling out between these two. FA Cup final 1990. I know a lot about it because, as I said, I had family that supported Palace. Alex McLeish was at Aberdeen also. Neil Simpson. So this is Aberdeen. Stuart McKimmie. Celtic. This is Celtic. Mo Johnston, before he moved to Rangers, before he came to the MLS. Davy Provan, another good commentator, another guy who became a good commentator. I have to admit, I don't know as much about Scottish football as I do about English football. I think I was kind of annoyed even when I had to put this sticker collection together. Why do I have to? Why do I care about Clydebank? Right? Here's Clydebank, by the way. Why? I was just into England. I had never been to Scotland at that point in my life, and I just didn't. To me, it was this foreign country. Well, it is a foreign country, but you know what I mean. It's just like totally different. Now I have such an appreciation for Scottish people, Scotland. Might be who I root for in the World Cup this summer because I'm feeling some distance from the U.S. Soccer Federation. Maybe I root for Scotland. And because, again, I love Steve Clarke. Dundee United. Dundee on... is this Dundee or Dundee United? I think this is Dundee. Yeah, this is Dundee. Dundee United must not have been in the top flight then. Oh, they were. They're on the next page. Dundee United. Yeah, they had some significant players. Kevin Gallagher. Falkirk. Keep in mind, Scottish teams were not banned from Europe. So there were even some significant English players who moved to Scotland. Hamilton, Academical. I know this video is running real long now, so I'm going to... Craig Lewin, we talked about earlier. He was at Hearts. Hibbs. Motherwell. Rangers under Graham Souness. Great Liverpool player. Terry Butcher. Ali McCoy, Cammy Frazier, Derek Ferguson. Yeah, they had a good team. Stuart Monroe. Chris Woods was their goalkeeper, who, of course, later became the goalkeeper coach for the United States. Was coaching Tim Howard, I think, at the... both... Oh, actually, he coached Tim Howard at Everton, too. So he coached Tim Howard both with Everton and with the States. St. Mirren. There's my man, Steve Clark. He was one of my favorite players when he was with Chelsea also, and I love him as a manager. I have so much time for him. Let's see. That might be it, right? Yeah, that's it. And here are the kits. So, oh gosh, and I think I did more of a number on this, just showing this to y'all. So, I am probably going, this is the cover again. I'm probably going to put this thing away and make sure it doesn't fall apart anymore. But this was it, Football 87. Incredible.